Hi, I'm so happy to be back today. What we're talking about today is super exciting. The last couple of weeks have been really light, really easy stuff, really simple material. But today, this is where the real meat comes in. This is what differentiates a really successful brand and a not so successful one. Um, and it's those foundations that set your brand completely apart. So I'm super excited to get into it today. I'm going to start sharing my screen in one moment. Oops. Okay. Okay, today we're talking about how to use copy to build an addictive brand. And what it ultimately comes down to is those foundational elements of a brand that are crucial to have in place in order to have clear, compelling copy. Okay, so we talked about this before. A business is profitable because of the relationship it builds with its audience and customer base. So, like, the key is the relationship. And people will not build a relationship with the 2D piece of cardboard. Not most people, anyway. There might be some people out there, and if that's you, then that's fine. But most people will not build a relationship with a 2D piece of cardboard. So, what does that mean? Your brand has to be like a person. Your brand has to distinguish itself from others, and your brand can't be flat and one-dimensional. Wait a minute. This is what some people say. Well, I'm not trying to be a brand. I'm just a business. But if you're here, it's because you're trying to establish an online business. And an online business right now is like the Wild West. Only the fittest will survive. And right now, to survive, it means that you have to play the game and go with what the customer wants. Customers have demands. They're the ones that run the show. And what they want is connections and relationships and content to establish and grow those relationships. So you have to decide what you're really about. Either you're all in or you try a different model. If you want to build a successful online business, all this foundational stuff is crucial, really. You can't move forward without it. Of course, there are a lot of different ways to do this, but you have to have these elements in place to build a powerful, addictive brand that becomes super profitable. So where this comes from, sorry for this big old wall of text, where this come from, I've worked with tons of businesses who are ready to be successful like 3 weeks ago or like last year, but they haven't gotten there, and they're just been on this hamster wheel of trying this and trying that and create this and create that, and they end up not seeing success with anything because they're not taking care of these foundational things. So was this you? You had a business idea, some opportunity, you jump right in, read all the blogs, listened to the podcast, put up a poll, try to vet your idea, and you created a product, a service, set up your website, put up all the words on the page, like get it all up, wrote some blog posts, maybe even content upgrades. And you hit publish and wrote a bunch of tweets and Insta and Facebook posts and made pretty graphics to attract people. And then you sat there like, when is my list going to grow? And all you got was crickets. And then the self-doubt comes in. Everybody said, build it and they will come. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Is my idea awful? Does my business suck? Does nobody like me? And then it reinforces all those fears that a lot of people have when they start a business. But sorry, babe, the harsh truth is that you set yourself up for failure. The problem, you were so eager to start and make money that you jumped into create and sell mode, which means that you forgot to make yourself attractive enough for your potential customers to want to build a relationship with you. And like I've been telling you, relationships are crucial in business today, especially relationships with your audience. You have to make them, attract them, and make them want to stay in a relationship with you. So you need these relationship building blocks. You need to show your killer personality. You need to have a powerful backstory. You need a kick-ass brand voice. You need to show genuine interest in them. And there needs to be a foundation of trust. Yes, very much like a real human relationship, you need these things in your relationships with your audience. And we're going to cover each one of those. I have time devoted for each one. Today's going to be a little longer, by the way. Fix 1. Define your brand personality. So when you're attracted to someone, usually, aside from their looks and their branding and all of that, you're attracted to their personality, who they are, and what they're about. Today, I am not at all talking about the beautiful outside package. Okay. First, let's get one thing clear. I've heard a lot of people say this, and it's not true. You are not your brand. Okay, I mean, think about it. Your brand is you are inconsistent. You have whims and you have mood swings, and you get persuaded by all the things that you read and bombarded with that you think that you need to change course every 10 seconds. So you are not your brand. And I'm not saying this as a negative thing. All of these traits are traits of normal humans. You know, we're often undecided. We often moody. We're often inconsistent. We don't have fully fleshed out ideas, and there's nothing wrong with that. But imagine if you put that as a brand out there. Okay, what your brand is, it's a carefully crafted version of you, or what you want your business to represent. So this is primarily if you are a solopreneur and are trying to build a personal brand with your business. If you're trying to build an agency or something, it'll be a carefully crafted, and I'm putting that in air quotes. And no, this does not mean that you have to be perfect and that you don't show vulnerability. People want relationships. They want the real deal. So you have to show your imperfections and you have to show your vulnerabilities. And I 100% know that it's easier said than done. This is something that I struggle with personally. Why? Why do you have to be carefully crafted? It's because consistency equals trust. And if you're inconsistent and all over the place and changing one day to the next, people are not going to trust you because they don't know what to expect. People like to invest anything, time, energy, resources, money into things that will bring them a result, into things that they know they'll get something from, and something that's constantly changing will not bring that. So let's look at this quote by Steve Jobs. I love this quote because it so perfectly captures what I'm trying to say. Marketing is about values. It's a complicated and noisy world, and we're not going to get a chance to get people to remember much about us. No company is. So we have to be really clear about what we want them to know about us. So you have to present an image. You have to present a clear picture of what you want your clients, your audience, your customer base to know about you and your business and your brand. Who is your brand? Like a person, your brand should have a core identity and a personality. There should be defined values and defined traits, specific beliefs, a core message, all those things that make a person. How do I identify your brand's who? So there are 4 steps to identifying your brand personality. Your brand values, things like hard work, never giving up, building others up, integrity, honesty, those things, those values that you want your brand with. Find out what your core beliefs and principles are. So those guiding ideas that will guide your business. For example, I believe that copywriting is the key to connecting with your audience, or that anyone can learn the art and science of copywriting. And it doesn't have to be 100% related to what you write about. This is just what was in my mind. It could also be like another one of my core beliefs is that any business can have a profitable bit if they set their mind to it and they do the work to build a brand that connects with people. Oops. Craft who you want to be for your audience. Do you want to be their coach, their friend, their hero, their teacher, their savior? Depending on whatever you want, figure that out. Who do you want to be for them? What do you want them to see you as? Step 4, define what your brand will be known for. So all of these things will be related, of course. Ultimately, all of these things will create what your brand is known for. But a good way to think about it is, what will people say when they describe you in one sentence? So if you were to ask them about, what one sentence description would they give you? Define your brand voice. This one is important, of course. Well, who am I kidding? I think all of them are important. But your brand voice, it's what shows who you are and what will set you apart. And brand voice, when it comes down to it, is 2 main things: what you talk about and how you talk about it. So what you talk about. And this is very much related to niche 101. Like, what is it that your main topics? What do your brand talk about? And it doesn't have to be just one, but it should be focused and specific to make the greatest impact. You should be able to connect them. So today it sounds like I'm talking about branding, but for me, it's all in the view of copywriting, because my main topic is copywriting. Now, some real talk. There are probably a bajillion of other people who talk about your same topic. I find copywriters all the time. When I first started, I was like, oh, there's not a lot of people doing this. And then they come out of the woodwork. There's tons of people doing what I do. There are tons of people doing what you do. But how you talk about it is what makes you unique. It's what will set your brand apart, because your brand is your unique viewpoint about what you talk about. So, how you talk about it. And this is closely tied to your core beliefs and principles, what we talked about earlier. So the most important thing here is to find your opinions, to find your framework, to find your viewpoint. What is it that you think about your topic that others aren't exactly talking about? Or even if they're talking about it, maybe they're talking about it in a different way, or how they talk about it leads to something else. Find what your thing is and what your core belief or idea is about that particular topic. Now, I hear a lot of people be worried, like, well, what can I add? Like, what value? How can I be different? And they want to start a business and they have an idea and they're going through all of the little steps, but they end up not going far because they're so blocked by this idea of being an imposter, or this idea that they have nothing additional or of value to add to a conversation. And that's not true, because the way that you think about it is different than anybody thinks about it. And the way that the conclusions that you come up with are different, and they're different based on your life experiences and the way that you connect ideas. And nobody else has those one connections just like you do. So just think about, okay, I'm talking about money, and come up with your perspective. Don't read what other people are saying. Find your own perspective. What about brand personality? How does that connect with your brand voice? Well, the other part of brand voice is to write in a tone that matches your personality. If your brand doesn't take itself too seriously, then you'd write in like a super casual conversation tone, like, and maybe even use some humor. You see, I was trying to be humorous, just then not sure if it landed well. You wouldn't use words that sound highly professional and stiff, like, well. However, thoroughly, those kinds of words wouldn't fit well in my brand, even because I'm pretty casual and I'm pretty conversational when I talk. I come from a teaching background, so when I teach, I kind of sound teachery. I think I sound a little preachy, and I can't change that because that's how I am, you know. So I like to be the teacher, and that comes across in my brand voice. So one thing that's helpful is to find your tone words. It would be good for you if you can take a screenshot, or I will make sure to write some kind of blog post about this so that you can just copy and paste these. I'll consider putting up the slides so that you can put all this information up so you can get these easily, but come up with some tone words for yourself and come up with more than one. So for example, I'm conversational and I like to be a little bit funny. Sometimes I'm ballsy, but you won't hear me sounding whimsical and sophisticated. I don't sound all artistic and academic. So find tone words that match your brand personality, and then write those consistently. Write in that way and in that tone consistently. And that's what will set you apart, because that's what makes up your voice. Ooh, this one's really important, and things are about to get real in this one. Craft your origin story. Stories are super important. So research says that people connect differently with stories. In a study by Washington University, they found that people feel the stories that they hear. They feel them as if they're a part of them. There was a story about this main character who kept performing actions. Let's say he did something with his right arm. And when that character did something with his right arm, the neurons, the part of the brain that controls the right arm, lit up in the readers. So our brain processes stories as if we're experiencing them ourselves. So including stories in your for your brand is so important. And not just that, that's how we connect with people. We talked about this last week a little bit, how stories are so important, but brand story is even more crucial, because people will see who you are, where you're come from, and people will attach themselves to you if there's something in your story that resonates with them. And that is a key that is important. When you tell stories, people like to be connected with people who are like them, who have had shared experiences or similar experiences, someone who could have a shared viewpoint. As a teacher, that was super important for me. I had a lot of success with my students because I came from a similar type of background with them. I was low income, minority, and had that experience similar to what they had. So that it made it very easy for them. So that's why your brand story is important. Now, real talk and confession time. I skipped this step with my business. And I mean, just based on hearing me talk about it, you know that I know it's true. And I even have experiences with that. And it was different with my students because they were in front of me and I could see them, and there's like an easy connection. And I know how profitable and how successful stories will make your business. But I didn't do this in my business for a couple of reasons. One, I feel vulnerable to do this. And it's different because I'm opening myself to people I don't know and people I might not know are there. So I've had a harder time because I'm very relational, sharing my story with the World Wide Web, because I'm not sure where it's going to go entirely. So, but I felt the effects because I haven't done this in my business. I have felt the effects. I have a harder time warming up my audience, which is why I've been working actively on crafting an origin story that makes sense and that is true to who I am and that will resonate with my audience. I'm not talking about making anything up here. I'm just talking about being strategic. So think about it. Like, how will people connect with you if they don't know you? So even if, when I think about movies and stories that I like to watch, when there's a character that is not well developed, I'm like, why do I care about this person? Why are you still in my screen? Because I don't know you. I don't care about you. I don't care about your story because it hasn't been developed. People like to connect, and they like to connect quickly. So take my example, my personal example in my business. I skip this and I'm feeling the effects. So work, and I'll give you some tips on crafting a story that will connect. But before, and this is a big moment for me, I'm going to start sharing some little tidbits. Did you know that a huge part of my drive comes from the fact that I'm an immigrant? Like, yep, straight up born in Mexico, didn't become a citizen till I was 17. And of my siblings, I'm the only one that was able to get citizenship and go to college. So what that's instilled in me is a huge duty to do something big. I have to make it worthwhile for everything that my family went through. Since I'm the only one that was able to do it, I have to make it. I have to set the example, like to pay off for the sufferings that they went through. Or did you know that I took the scenic route for college, and it took me 7 years to get my degree? I did fashion. Yep, went to art school, went to fashion school. I was studying Italian. I was trying to transfer to a fashion school after I went to community college. I did all kinds of things. Didn't know that, never shared that with anybody. Or what about that I had the chance to work on my dream business when I was young. I was in my 20s, and I was so scared of failure and of not having anything valuable to add to the conversation that I didn't, and ended up doing nothing. I wasted 2 years, and now I'm kicking myself because I didn't start till I was 30. And I'm just like, what could I have done in all that time? Imagine the business I would have had if I had started when I was younger. But it's those things that people will connect with. How many people would connect to this idea of doing nothing and letting your fears hold you back and then regretting it? You know, I wish things were different. So here's a little bit of my story. And I'm excited to be sharing more of myself with my audience. So the story problem, and I know this very well because this is something that I've been going through recently. What do I put in my story? Nothing has happened in my life, or what's interesting about my story? This one's really crucial. It's like, well, why does my story matter? Like, I have this expertise. I'm really good at what I do. Like, why do people care? But it comes down to those connections. And then also, how do I narrow it down? How do I make it concise? There are so many things that have happened in my life. How do I make it relevant and make a complete package of a story? So here are some tips. To craft your story, find some common themes. For example, I have a couple of times in my life where I've put myself in a situation and just went for it, just asked and pitched an idea. And I got two big things from that. I became an editor-in-chief of a magazine in college that had more circulation than just college because I said, hey, you need help. Let me help you. And I became an editor-in-chief within a year and a half. Or I did what I'm doing now because I reached out to a big business blogger, and I was like, hey, your site needs help, your writing needs help. I love what you're doing, but I need to help you. And it worked, and here I am now. I also have themes like drive and success and wanting to build a legacy. Just find things that will resonate with your audience. And when you know your audience, you know what will resonate with them. And what we're talking about here is just some really human stories. You know, think of movies. What stories resonate with you? Think of those kinds of things. So just like pull out those little tidbits. Connect your experiences to your core beliefs. So a lot of what has worked with me has been related to writing, to editing, to communicating with people, to building relationships. And those are my core beliefs in my business. Copywriting is the way you communicate with your audience, and you need to communicate with your audience to build a relationship, and when you build a relationship, you will have a profitable business. So a lot of my experience in life connect directly to my beliefs in my business. So make sure you always relate your story back to your business. What led you to start this business? It's that origin story that people like, and go ahead and give a backstory. Highlight what led to your expertise. How did you get there? And point out things like your aha moment. This is when I realized this. Like for me, I started doing research because I had a baby stuck to my boob. I was on maternity leave, and what else was I going to do other than figure out what business to finally start after years of putting it off? Some other story crafting tips. Use a common narrative arc. So things like us versus them. I was this and everybody told me wrong and that I could never be successful, but here I am showing them wrong. Redemption story. I messed up everything in my life. I ruined my relationships. I burned all the bridges. And this is how I've made amends. And this is my way of paying that back. Or story of growing up. I was young, I was dumb, I learned a lot of things in life, the hardships of life, and I matured and became this person, X, Y, and Z. The transformation story. I used to be like this, and now I'm like this. So use common themes that you see in stories, and we all know them. They're formulaic. They're in every single movie ever. So pick a story narrative arc that you like with that. Another big tip is to start your story in the middle. Because when you start with once upon a time, you're like, oh, this is going to be long. But if you start in the middle of the main part of your story, the main conflict, people love that. It hooks people in, kind of like Forrest Gump. I don't know if I was little when this came out, so I'm not sure how familiar you're all with this. But in Forrest Gump, it starts right in the middle. He's on a bench. He's lived this whole life. He's super successful. And then he takes us back to his story. Fix number 4, get to know your audience. Oh, this one is so crucial. So let me paint a picture for you. Say you're the perfect package. You're attractive, you have a killer personality, you have a unique and defined viewpoint, but you don't take care to know those around you. You don't show genuine interest in people who are attracted to you. What would happen? What would happen if that was the case? You'd probably get a bad reputation. You wouldn't have lasting relationships. You'd end up gorgeous and alone. Even if new people are intrigued by you, they'd quickly find out what your true personality is and that you don't care about anybody else, and they would leave you. So the same thing would happen with a brand. If they're super attractive and they attract a lot of people in the beginning, how long would they have lasting customer relationships? How much repeat business would they have? They wouldn't. That's what drives a lot of those infomercials is often those products don't work, but they attract enough new business and forget about the never have repeat business because they don't really care to know their audience and what their audience really wants and cares about. So the key to wooing your audience is to get to know them. Super, super, super important. It's just like when you're trying to find a romantic partner. If you don't try to get to know about them, the relationship will never go anywhere. And the key is to be genuine in your interests. And I want to pause here for a second with the presentation, because I know it's difficult at first. You're starting a business to make money. Let's be honest. We want to make money. But if you don't have a genuine interest in helping people, in helping your customers or getting your customers to somewhere they want to go, your business is going to struggle. So, and the key to getting them to where they want to go is making sure that you know where they want to go. So you have to reframe your business and say, okay, who am I serving? What am I doing for them? And what am I giving? So the key is to make it not just about demographics. Learn their thoughts, their struggles, their aspirations, their drives, their desires, their dreams. Like I know my audience wants to build a business. They want to build an empire. They want to build something of their own. They want to attract their audience. And they have a hard time writing copy that does that in a genuine and authentic way, that does it without sounding skeezy or salesy, or that doesn't sound insincere. And I know those things about my audience, and this is why I cover the topics that I cover. And the thing is that you have to get to know them and research and find out where they are regularly. Fix number 5, and we're nearing the end here. The key, key foundation of a relationship is to build a trusting one, to have a trusting foundation. And all of the things that we've talked about build trust, because we're talking about being consistent. We're talking about being open and sharing yourself and caring for people genuinely. And these are the basic foundation parts of a relationship. And these things build trust. If you're inconsistent, if you don't open yourself up, people don't know where you come from. If you're changing all the time, people don't know what to expect. If you close yourself off, people don't know if they can trust you because they don't know what's hiding underneath. And if you're not genuinely caring about them, people are going to walk away. So when you do all of these things, you build a foundation of trust. Now, there are other ways to build trust, and it's important that you pair them with these things. Oops. You have to establish yourself as the expert. So you share lots of content. So I know a lot of people want to sell and sell and sell because you're in business to make money, but this is a long game, babe. Like, you need to show that you're an expert and you know what you're talking about. Part of the way that I'm doing that is by doing these videos. And I do these videos because I want you to see that I'm here to help you, that I want to give you valuable information, and that I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just pulling things out of my butt and trying to sell them to you. I'm not even trying to sell you anything right now, because it's so important to build this trust. I want you to know that I'm here to help you and that I know my stuff. So this is one of the ways that I'm doing it. So share content. And have social proof. That means have killer testimonials about results that you've given. Try to get featured in other places. So another way that I'm doing is I've been pitching articles to big magazines and big publications. And I'm also trying to collaborate with bigger names. And I'm doing this not as just to get myself out there, but I want people to see my expertise and to trust my expertise because of all of these things. And here's an important word. So, and I say this, and this is something that's been bothering me because I work with clients and I see the back end of their business. And a lot of people have a hard time with business because they're not 100% sure what kind of business they want to be. And this is super important. You will get what you put out there. And I see a lot of people say like, oh, but this is so serious. This is like, I'm just a solopreneur. You're talking about being a big brand and being super established and putting all this information out there in solopreneur. But people will only take you as seriously as you take yourself. And the same with your business. If you don't show that you're serious about your business, that you know what your business is, you'll look novice and people won't trust you. They'll be waiting for you to just go away. So be clear about what you want to accomplish and go for it. And yes, all of this is work. I'm not in any way saying that any of this is easy. It's difficult for me even because you have to break through your personal issues. You have to break down your personal barriers and mindset problems that you've been carrying around for years. But if you're really serious about what you want and do these things, you will build a business that is so addictive and super profitable. And I love this quote by Seth Godin. He's like the master of marketing. The entrepreneur is building something bigger than herself. So really think about what you want to build with your business. And if it's really something bigger, then go for this. If you just want to be a small business that offers services, rethink your plan and rethink how you go about your business model. So just a quick, I know it sounded like I was talking a lot about branding today, and branding is crucial. But you're a copywriter. What does this all have to do with copywriting? Your message and your copy will never be clear and compelling if these things are not said. And this has happened. I've worked on failed launches, and it hurts me on the inside. It sucks. And part of that happens when, often it happens when their message and their idea isn't clear. When these foundations aren't set and you don't know your audience and you don't know what message you want to convey, nothing will be clear. And remember, copywriting is how you communicate with your audience. And if there's no clear foundation, your message will always be muddled. Okay, that is all that I have for today. Thank you so much for listening to me and for watching these videos. If you have any particular topic that you want me to discuss in any following workshops, by all means, let me know. Talk soon. Bye-bye.